In today's episode of the Platform Presents podcast, I have an interesting guest here with me today. I'm with Scott King, and he is hailing over as the head of marketing at Krista Software. And Krista is an easy-to-use AI-led intelligent automation platform. And since a lot of marketers are listening in, so it's going to be very interesting to deep dive into what the platform is all about. And to basically optimize and complete business processes across people, applications, and the AI. So we really want to deep dive what Krista does in essence, like which problems are being solved with it, but also how Scott is thinking about growth for the company. So welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks so much, Lucas. Glad to be here.
Of course. Yeah. So maybe give us at first, a 360 overview. What is Krista all about in your own words?
So Krista is, like you said, it's an AI-led automation platform. And what that means is we're using artificial intelligence to help optimize and automate complete business processes. And when we mean business processes, we mean processes that span apps, people, and AI, right? So think about anything that you log into and then find an answer, and then you have to call a person for another piece of information for that business process, right? That is redundant because all of that data resides in applications already. So why not optimize the process across the people and the apps, use AI to learn, how to optimize it and let the software slowly take over time, right? So you can basically sell more stuff.
That makes a whole lot of sense. Could you give us an example of a couple of sort of business processes that you've seen working particularly well with Krista?
So, there's like anything that you log into, you can optimize, right? So think about your sales. We'll talk about sales CRM, right? So everyone understands this is a marketing podcast. So the data in Salesforce.com is never up to date and it's never correct. Why? Because it's hard to update it, right? Because it was designed by engineers. So if you extract the user interface and make it easier to use, people will update it. So say, for instance, no one ever updates Salesforce, or rarely, right? But if you get a text message, every text message is read within like 90 seconds and 97% of them are responded to within 2 minutes. So why is that? So what if your CRM acted more like texting? So essentially what we're doing is we're creating processes that look like group text messages. And as you interact with the text message, our software updates the CRM system. So what happens is your CRM system provides better reports. You can make, better decisions. You can promote more effectively. Like, hey, there's a lot of people looking at X product. We should maybe offer a discount, right? In speed sales. So that's just one example, but you can automate, anything that you log into.
Cool. Appreciate that explanation to make it very tangible. What would you say? Which type of companies benefit the most? Is there a certain size a company would typically have? Certain team sizes that are required, or is that, where does it typically start, and where do you see sort of which customer benefiting the most?
So we have both large and small customers. We have software companies that have actually embedded our platform into their own platform. And they've done this because the platform itself is very conversational. Since it looks like texting or chat, it's very easy to use. So we had a software company. They were inundated with help tickets and support calls and things like this because their platform was, one of the first of its kind. So it was unfamiliar with people. So they didn't know like where to find certain information. So they found chatbots were not valuable enough because you still have to code the answer to the chatbot. So we provided a conversational interface. So when you type in a question, our natural language understanding and processing will understand what you're asking for and guide you to the right spot. So it makes coding a chatbot redundant, right? You don't need to do that. So it can help guide that process. They're also using the platform for sales. So they say, okay, which one of my customers are renewing this quarter, right? Our software will go read all the contracts and all the opportunities, tell you which customers and then, send out quotes, work the quote process, and then, make sure that you maintain renewals and customer retention. So it's both sides. Large customers, think about, a large customer like maybe a phone service provider, and they have large call centers. You ever call into a call center and like the agent seems to know nothing, yet all you hear is clicking and they're logging into different systems? It's because literally they have to look at anywhere from 12 to 20 different screens. Because think about, I've acquired a TV provider. So now your customer information is in two systems, or I've grown by acquisition. There's a software company that we all know that I'm not going to mention. They have 41 different instances of Salesforce.com. Like, how do you do that? Imagine if a customer information was in 41 different places. Okay, it is. So when you call support, that's why it's frustrating, because they can't find you and the data isn't consistent. So any large company that has a call center and just work is confusing, we want to stop that confusion.
That makes it very, very visible and very easy to understand what you guys are doing. And it seems there's also a lot of untapped potential in what you guys are doing. Probably a lot of use cases emerging over time. I'm curious, what would you say is typically the champion within those organizations that wants to bring in Krista? Like, is that, the IT department? Is it actually on the support side? Because you mentioned the support case. Who's typically bringing in the software as a champion?
Yeah, typically it is someone already doing automation and they're stuck. So they have a certain set of tools that are automating certain processes or applications, and yet the tool has a limitation. So they're looking for, okay, it's, I've done this, I'm trying to automate this, but the tool set I have doesn't work. I need to look for something else. So that is one. So that's like an automation center of excellence, and you'll find a center of excellence at larger corporations. And then anyone that is in charge of a larger like IT budget and software delivery or application delivery. So right now there's a shortage of software developers. So how do you innovate faster? Well, you need to use a different method. So stop building all these custom apps and use an automation platform to help you use the apps you already have in a more user-friendly way, right? So make the apps that you have, more of the mobile experience. What that does for you is it increases your speed to innovate. It lowers your delivery costs, and there's no training costs. Like, everyone has a smartphone, so you don't have to train people how to use new applications. You need to make the application understand the people, which is why we have the tagline at Krista, technology that understands people. So instead of doing software training, let's just have the software understand the people and out of the box.
Very cool. Now, what would you say, how do people learn about Krista? Like, what's the typical client acquisition channels that you guys leverage?
A typical channel is, we're enterprise software, so there's a lot of hand holding. So we do have a direct sales force, and our biggest channel is our partner network. So like I said, companies that are already automating things with certain tools, they have a partner helping them to do that, either through technology solution or staff augmentation or just consulting, right? So those type of partners are a really big channel for us because they understand the problems that we're solving. And so they're helping us get into different accounts. And that makes like our marketing job, we have to provide content and materials for our direct channel, but also make it partner friendly so they can consume it and use it.
Yeah, maybe for any marketer who's listening out there, who's maybe at the beginning of building out a partner network or a team that is building out partnerships, like, what have you found to be sort of the key cornerstones of a, successful partnership model? Like, how do you guys do you work with agencies? Is there a partner program? Maybe tell us a little bit about that.
So, well, we do a couple of different things. So many of our employees are from the space or the industry, so they know the partner network. We also work with analysts. The analysts are very helpful in introducing us to relevant partners. That, hey, I want to find a relevant partner in the UK that is helping people do this type of automation, right? And they say, okay, you need to talk to this partner, and they'll provide us provide us an introduction, send an email like, hey, you should talk to these Krista guys. I've seen it and it's really great stuff. So that is good as well. And then, I mean, we're big LinkedIn users, right? Like LinkedIn is a gold mine, which is probably for cold outreach is our primary method, because, many of us have been in several software companies for several years. So we have big networks, and we look credible, right? So we look for real, and that helps quite a bit too.
Cool. That gives some insight. Now, obviously, you mentioned there's quite some outbound happening. Now, how do you, as a marketer, think about the website? Like, what role does the website play for Krista?
The website, I mean, that's the first place people go, right? Even if you send somebody an email and they say, hey, I want to talk to you, I'm from this Krista software, with almost 100% certainty, they're going to check the website before they call or email you back, right? So it's got to provide enough information, the right information to help your buyer get to the next step, right? So, we're all familiar with the buyer's journey, and everybody's product is going to create a different journey. But your job is, one asset is not supposed to do the whole thing, it's just to get them to the next step, right? So how do you do that, right? So we provide a lot of helpful articles. We try to be descriptive about the product without giving away all the secrets. And so there's a fine line there. But, the reality is we require a lot of hand-holding with enterprise sales. So, you even have to educate our own team with the website, and useful assets for them. So the website is kind of the core, piece of material, and it's fluid, right? I mean, websites change all the time.
I mean, you've been in interesting marketing roles prior, maybe not, not just like down to Krista, even like previous roles. Like, what have you found to be sort of great methods to, make a website, even, a conversion engine? Like in an enterprise scenario is probably a little bit different, but just, across your experience, have you seen approaches, ways that you personally quite like that, when you think about improving a website for a SaaS product or software product?
So I guess I'd answer that in two different ways. Specifically, I mean, the best way is to have like a really cool piece of content. People love custom reports and they love data, right? Because the data doesn't lie. I mean, you can spin it in different ways, and I've been at fault of that several times. But, having a cool asset that helps them do their job, right? Doesn't help you really sell, but you look like an educator. From a conversion perspective, as much as I hate the pop-ups, they actually work. And I don't know why, and it pains me, but little things like that, just to make the user journey easier. Hey, if you want this report, drop your email in here and I'll just email it to you. It just makes it simple, right? And you don't need to ask for a bunch of information, because they just want to read, right? They're not buying, they're learning. So I think it just depends on, the buyer's journey, which is relevant to what you guys are doing.
Very cool. I would love to switch gears a little bit and, tap a little bit into your experience as a marketer. The first thing that I'm curious about is, you actually mentioned, a lot of reports out there. There's so much content out there for marketers. Like, where do you personally like to educate yourself, when it comes to your personal growth as a marketer? Is there any peer networks, groups, blogs? Like, where do you typically like to go?
I typically like to go to Twitter, actually. So I follow a couple of different hashtags, and I look at marketing. I look at I'm not a data scientist, but I read the data science. I read artificial intelligence, because we're writing about these things. So I want to understand kind of relevant questions. But probably Twitter is the #1 place I go, because it's immediate. And it's easy to scan. I have a pretty big LinkedIn network as well, so I can always ask a question there, or provide a post to create a discussion. There's all types of different communities. I know that there's like a growth marketing, there's a growthhacking.com, there's a product marketing community. I typically don't find the time to go there, but those are valuable. But I would say by far my number one, which I do probably every other day, is see if there's something interesting on Twitter. And then I tend to think about it all the time. So even as I'm going around town and doing my daily, picking up kids from school or riding my bike, I'm always looking for ideas, right? So I'm just constantly curious. And I think if anybody else is constantly curious, you know where to look, right? You go down the rabbit hole and you have to stop yourself. So that was a long answer for a short question, but I don't really have one specific spot.
I have a couple of more short questions. If you allow, I would jump into a rapid fire questions to wrap up the interview for today.
Sure, go right ahead.
What's the last book you read?
The last book I read, or that I am reading, I haven't finished it yet. The Singularity is Near by Ray Kurzweil.
What is one single thing your company is focused on the most at the moment?
Making technology that understands people.
If there would be no boundaries in tech, what's the one thing you would fix for your role today?
If there's no boundary in tech, I'd make typing go away. Like I'd make websites go away. I'd make it like Star Trek, right? So they just talk to and create commands.
What's the last thing that kept you awake at night about the company?
Writing about artificial intelligence.
Makes sense. And for the very last question, I would like to do a little bit of time travel, if you allow. Let's go back to the days of Texas Tech, right? Now you're heading out of formal education into the world of marketing and business. Like, what's the one advice you would give yourself for your journey?
The one piece of advice I'd give myself, that many years ago, I would say stay curious and don't put up with as much BS as you're going to see.
Scott, I really appreciate it. You took the time to be a guest on Pathmonk Presents. Thanks a lot for being a guest on the show.
Yeah, really appreciate it. Glad to be here.